Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Math and STEM, where our mission is to reach out to as many professionals, aspiring professionals, students, whatever you name it. We try to reach out to them, essentially support the initiative of bringing more women and young girls into the STEM field. So, with that being said, as always, feel free to open up the description or transcript to better follow along, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello, and thank you so much for coming to this episode today and speaking with me. Just to sort of start off, do you mind sort of introducing yourself as well as walking us through your STEM journey and what exactly inspired you to become an advocate or a STEM advocate particularly for young girls?
So my name is Frida Zhu. I am currently a senior in high school here in New York, and my STEM journey began by moving to the US. I was born in Albania. It's a small country in Europe. It's actually really small. Some people even forget to put it in the map sometimes. Um, so yeah. But that's when I moved. I moved here around 4 years ago, and what I realized is that there's so many things or issues that have followed me from Albania to here. Like I moved here expecting to be completely different, for things to be completely spotless, no problems, no issues. But there's a lot of mispresentation or lack of presentation of immigrants, especially, and women in STEM. There's When I realized this when I first moved to my school's or science Olympiad team. There was only one girl, me, on the team for Codebusters, and when I became part of the team, the two members of the team, which would be my partners later, they said her, like they were surprised that I was part of the team. So yeah, there's so many of these obstacles that follow from Albania to here, and I realized that if I wasn't going to do something about it, which was like I was someone to witness all of this from another country across the ocean to another, then there would be no one that's as suitable because I had all this experience in the back. So yeah, that's how I began, and then I was involved in a few things here and there. I first became part of the New York Hall of Science, which is an organization here or like a place here in New York where students volunteer sometimes to explain scientific concepts to younger audiences or diverse audiences. And from there, I was introduced to so many opportunities. So yeah, that was the beginning of it. So right now, I just do a lot of advocacy for girls in STEM and immigrants in STEM as well. Just hoping to make sure that everyone has access to opportunities that I thought I lacked in Albania, and I thought weren't completely portrayed here in the US as well.
I see. Speaking of your experience working with immigrants as well as women in STEM, I was wondering sort of if you've had any meaningful or memorable experiences that you'd like to share.
Definitely. When I first was involved in like these STEM opportunities. One of my first opportunities was called the Million Girls Moonshot, which is an organization that helps connect girls across the country. Usually it's around 50 girls, one from each state, and we become advocates for our communities and people that represent our communities. So yeah, there's 50 girls from each state, and that was my first time being introduced to such a diverse audience of women in STEM, and it was equally as inspiring as it was just comforting because seeing so many people that were successful and that looked like me, like a girl or girls, it was definitely something comforting. And then that year with the Million Girls Moonshot, I was able to attend a meeting, or I guess it'd be like a ball. Where we all went to the Atlanta Aquarium, and I held the first serious speech. They were giving me a microphone and I had to tell my STEM story of how I moved here and how things in the beginning were difficult and such. So I was in front of an audience of maybe around 200 or 300 people. And there were a lot of sponsors, people in suits and in shiny black suits. So it was really, first it was a little scary because why was I worth it? Why was I so important that my story was being spotlighted like this? But yeah, that was one of the first times that I felt empowered for sure. And yeah, that's how I guess I began. It inspired me to continue sharing my story and kind of gave me some worth, I guess, that I definitely could not see before.
I see, that's amazing. And also, I was just wondering what you personally thought were some of the biggest challenges that immigrants or women and minorities face when it comes to entering the STEM field.
I'm sorry, you were cut out for a little bit. What was the question?
Oh, for sure. I was just saying, sort of I was just curious about like what you personally thought about some of the biggest challenges that young girls or immigrants or minorities face when it comes to entering the STEM field, and how exactly can we address those challenges?
But there was a connection with my internet, I think, but I couldn't hear you.
Oh,
Can you please
all
repeat
good.
it one more time?
All good. I was just curious about what you personally thought were some of the bigger challenges facing immigrants and women as well as other minorities when pursuing careers in STEM, and how exactly can we address those challenges?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that us as immigrants, we don't really find, because it's so difficult to place to or to prioritize education and opportunities like this over simple survival. We don't really find the time to pursue these opportunities. And yeah, for example, when I first moved here, I had to live in my aunt's basement because I didn't have my own house, which was crazy. So thinking like that time, it would be kind of silly to tell my parents that I'm doing research on extracurriculars. Like for them, it was too prestigious, something that we didn't really fit in the criteria of. For us, like the priorities were survival, looking for a way to find our own house, building enough financial like support through different jobs and as such. So if something didn't equal money, it wasn't important to my parents at that time, which I of course don't blame them for because this is how the circumstances this really lead you to. But yeah, something that I definitely see like struggles with is finding ways to approach these immigrants that do not prioritize education as much because of the circumstances that their life is covered by. Finding a way to approach them so they can explore these opportunities in STEM. So, for example, my organization, I've started an organization called SRAO, which connects students with opportunities across the world. We have a database, a STEM database, which has links to all these different opportunities for students to apply to, whether they be online or in person. So yeah, something as simple as that, which is simply a place where people can find opportunities without doing all the research and all the extra hours of work. Something that I try to do myself. But yeah, I definitely say finding a way to approach STEM opportunities without lacking in other areas that are important in your life.
I see, that makes a lot of sense. I was also just curious if you could elaborate or speak about the research you've done in medical and cancer research, and sort of what has been the most rewarding experience about being a researcher.
Oh, that's a great question. I last year I was able to be part of a research project, or I'm sorry, a research competition with my project. It's called Terra NYC. It's part of ISEF, which is I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's a really popular research competition worldwide. But Terra NYC is a smaller branch. It's just a New York City ISEF. So from there you're able to win awards and even get into ISEF if you pass a certain level. So yeah, last year I had my own project, and it's kind of a funny topic because my project revolves around building a band-aid from fish scales. So yeah, when I first came across that idea of fish scales, they were a really important or kind of detrimental part of the marine life because there's so much fish scale waste nowadays because restaurants run on fish and they don't really use the scales. So because of a growing demand of the production of fish or sometimes even breeding of fish, there's a lot of fish scales that are thrown into the ocean, which messes up with the marine life and can lead to detrimental circumstances. So me and my partner, I had a partner to do this project. We decided we wanted to do something regarding this topic because it's not talked about at all almost in the global warming or environmental issue field. When we hear about global warming, we hear about CO2 or carbon dioxide emissions and how new technology has caused these. But the marine life is not touched upon as much, especially fish scales, which is, if you think about it, it's just a part of nature. So why would that be a problem? But yeah, it is indeed a problem. So what we did is we extracted collagen from the fish scales, and we were able to incorporate it into a band-aid. And that band-aid also had some material of the fish scales because we grinded the fish scales and we were able to receive some kind of cotton cotton-like material. So we kind of incorporated all these different elements like collagen and from the fish scales and the fish scales themselves to make a band-aid that was 100% biodegradable. So we kind of tried to connect the issue of global warming to medicine as well, and we came to this result of the band-aid. And then we were able to run or to participate in a competition about it. We got two awards. One of them was the second place from the competition, and then the other one was um, the STEM award from NYU. So NYU, the School of Engineering, issues an award called the STEM award, and we got around $1,000 for our project, and we were able to be selected as the best project in the state for sustainability and solving current issues. So that was exciting for sure. Because when you put a lot of work into something, it's great. Like the process, it's fantastic when you're passionate about it, and then receiving something at the end that tells you good job it's even greater pleasure as well because you finally, like I said before, you have the sense of empowerment.
I see. That sounds amazing. Your project sounds really cool. I would have never thought about like the fact that fish scales were a problem. I think you mentioned that like because they're a part of nature, like we wouldn't think that like they would pose any like threat to sustainability. But I think that's a really cool take. And speaking about projects, I was wondering what sort of projects are you currently involved in? Are you interested in being involved in the future and sort of stuff like that? Yeah.
So thank you for the question. So currently I have my own organization. It's called, I think I mentioned before, but it's called SRAO. It stands for Scientific Research Awareness Organization. And I would like to help students like me who want to pursue a career in research or do want to be involved in research to learn about how to conduct your own research experiment, how to connect with a mentor or professor to do research, or how the field of research works. So yeah, this is something I'm trying to grow right now. This is one of the projects. Because when I first came to the US, in Albania there's nothing like research. No student had that much freedom to conduct their own research experiments. Like there's not that sense of freedom in there. So when I moved here, I thought it was a fantastic thing that we were able to have our own research, our own band-aid in this case, or our own awards regarding research. So I thought it'd be a great idea to introduce it to my students or my friends back in Albania. But then from there, we grew into something more globally spread. So now we have ambassadors. We have ambassadors in India, South Africa, I believe, and Europe and Italy. So yeah, we have around three continents because I guess since I have so many friends or connections from Albania, they were able to spread the word in other countries in Europe as well. And yeah, that's the project I'm currently working on. Hopefully, we can set up our own website. We do have an Instagram page. We have around 500 followers, which is pretty good, still growing. But yeah, we're just hoping to introduce more students to opportunities and especially research opportunities.
That sounds amazing. I was also just curious about like if you had any advice or tips to give to immigrants or female students who are interested in STEM, like what would you say to them and sort of how would you encourage them to keep going?
Um, for sure. Thank you. Definitely a good question because when I first, oh, sorry, you were cut out. You were cut out for a little bit, so I didn't. Was that all the question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think I cut you off at some point, so sorry about that. All right. So when I first moved here, like I said before, I've said it so many times now, but when I first moved here, there was no really a mentor or a role model or anything to follow. We were all required to just keep going, keep living. And I guess it was kind of an issue because um, being someone that just moved here that was scared about the language, scared about the connections that I did not have, or not having someone that had made it that looked like me or that felt had my story was scary because, yeah, not having someone you can look to can be terrifying at times, especially if you're an immigrant with no support, no backbone. It's a completely new country and completely new life story. It can be scary, but I guess an advice I would give to my peers and immigrants and girls to STEM is that sometimes you can be the role model that you're wishing for or you're looking for. You don't have to always have that safe environment, or like, I guess not safe environment, but you don't have to always have that like future that is secured for you. You have to take risks. You have to be the someone that you not see on the field. If there's a science Olympiad team with no girl, you should be the one to try out. You shouldn't be intimidated by anything like that. Sometimes statistics can scare you. Numbers or percentages of immigrants in STEM is really small. Percentage of girls in STEM is also even smaller. But these statistics are not made to push you back or to restrict you. They're made to tell you or to inspire you to break them or to be the exception to all these equations. So yeah, definitely be the role model you're looking for and definitely put yourself out there. If even if it's scary, even if it's risky, there's gonna be so many times when we're gonna have to take risks in our lives. And now when we're younger is the time to have these failures.
That's such an inspiring mindset. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing your insight. And yeah, that was really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Your questions were so specific, so great. I enjoyed them all. Very comfortable. I love all this. Is this part of like a bigger like podcast or story
Yeah, this
database?
is a part of a bigger podcast for like women in math and STEM, and I do episodes with people who I think have really interesting and unique stories, and I would love to like ask them about their experiences and sort of to share it with a wider audience.
That's great. Do you guys are you guys like accepting applicants or anything like that? Like, do you need like help and stuff? Because like I said before, I have a STEM database where I like had that opportunity. So if you need like any help highlighting your podcast, I will put that in there as well.
Oh, for sure. And also I would like love to link like your organization in the description as well as like do stuff like that if that's also of interest.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You can text me on LinkedIn or anything like that, and I'll definitely reach out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.